Hey everybody, I have had an awful lot of people ask me to do a specific video on flying a Taildragger airplane. Okay, and now this is around RC. It does apply to full scale, but I want to start off first by kind of talking about how the Taildragger reacts on the ground when you're just taxiing, when you're taking off, when you're landing, when you're going through all the different regiments of flight. And something a lot of people are really nervous about doing is pushing that stick forward on an RC aircraft to get the tail in the air. Okay, so think about this a little bit, especially on a twin or a 4-engine airplane. I notice it a lot on multi-engine airplanes, but when you think about the prop blast that's coming off the propeller and the way the airplane's going down the runway, when you first start to accelerate, you just don't hammer it, okay? Most people that I know, especially with Taildraggers, you just ease the power in, use your rudder to hold your direction down the runway, then you take off, okay? But that first 20 or 30 feet, people are always wondering, why is the plane wiggling so bad? There could be a couple of things, and look this up on the internet, because I've had many heated discussions with people about this, but the front wheels on a Taildragger should be towed out just a little bit. They should never be towed in. Okay, by towing them out, when the plane starts to go this way, this wheel's producing a little bit of drag, and this one's going straight, and it kind of helps you not have that wheelbarrow effect quite as, I shouldn't use the word wheelbarrow because that's more like a tricycle gear, but it helps the plane track straighter. When you've got them in like this, okay, when the airplane goes like this one's trying to diverge a lot, and this one's seeing no resistance. So you want a little bit of toe out on the wheels. So, and look that up, okay? If I can find it, I'll put the little picture over here that explains that a little bit better. I'm just not sure where that's in all my files right now. But you want to push the stick forward and get the tail in the air so that the rudder is seeing as much air flow as possible, especially if it's a twin or a 4-engine airplane. Okay, some full-scale airplanes, I believe it's a DC-3, it's part of the takeoff procedures is to get the tail in the air as soon as you can so that you've got the rudder in the airstream, because on a twin-engine airplane, not a lot of wind from the engines is hitting the rudder. But to really tame a Taildragger is a lot of practice, but don't be scared of it. Don't be paranoid of it. Okay, a lot of people will say, oh, a Taildragger is really, really hard to fly. It's not once you practice it. To me, Taildraggers are a blast. That's all I fly. I don't have, well, I do have one tricycle gear plane. It's a jet, EDF. But all my other airplanes, yeah, every airplane I have is a Taildragger. And you need to commit to flying, though, too, and know where that go, no-go point is. I've seen people, and this is going to be a gut call. This is going to be your own personal call, is how far out of control the airplane is, and are you pulling the plane into the air too soon? I have seen a lot of people go down the runway, and the plane starts to really turn because they're not putting in the rudder. There's torque, there's prop factor, all kinds of things going on. And they just jerk the plane into the air, and they stall and crash. Okay, that to me is not committing to fly. That to me is panicking. So what you've got to do is, and what I mean by commit to fly is always fly the airplane. Always stay on that rudder. Try to get your tail up in the air. Try to track as straight as you can. Now, if you've got a lot of room and you're an early Taildragger pilot, don't be so critical of yourself about going straight down the runway. Just try to have the airplane controlled with the tail in the air. Make sure you got plenty of airspeed and lift it into the air. Okay, landing a Taildragger to me can sometimes be one of the hardest airplanes I've ever landed, because you have no prop blast on the rudder. Unless your tail wheel's on the ground, you don't have any control of the tail wheel. Most of the time, the tail wheel will touch the ground. There's still no weight on the tail wheel because the tail's still flying a little bit. And if your wheels are not towed out a little bit, if they're kind of wonky, you'll land and notice the plane just starts to go all over the place, and you start touching the wingtips on the ground, and you're like, oh God, I suck as a pilot. Actually, you don't. The only pride you've heard is that is the airplane. The plane is deeply embarrassed that you're not relaxing and taking your time. Okay, we got to think about the mental capacity of your airplane. I believe airplanes have souls, and they're mad at you when they make them look stupid. So, when you're landing a tail dragger, set up your approach like any other flight, okay? I would really say get used to having a full stalled landing or know how to do a wheel landing. Anything in between that can get wonky. So a full stall landing is where you are basically inches off the ground and the plane just kind of plumps down, it quits flying. Okay, the wings just, once it's down, normally you got enough tail wheel control that you can control your directional control with the rudder, with your tail wheel. Another thing about tail draggers is when you move the rudder, a lot of people want to move it like you are steering an RC car. I kind of jab my rudder. And if you fly full scale, you do the rudder on a full scale airplane a little bit like that too. You're kind of jabbing it and keep it straight, jabbing it. You're not just sitting there chasing it. Okay, and I don't know if it's our brains or our feet are just a little bit slower or we're just nervous of the wrong inputs, but by jabbing it a little bit and just keeping the plane going where you want. So if you notice when I land my big 188-inch wings span MSL2, you'll notice my rudder jabs a lot when I land. And that's just me kind of flicking it a little bit to try to keep it going exactly where I want. I have noticed if I try to do this, I do start to get into a pilot induced, I don't know if that's an oscillation, but you just get out of control if you're not careful. So all I can say about taming a tail dragger is make sure your wheels are set up right. Make sure, I've had a lot of people say your CG's got to be great. Look, I've had CGs all over the place on my airplanes, and I've never noticed a big difference in how they handle on the ground as a tail dragger. On tricycles, I've noticed a little bit. Tail draggers, I've never noticed. So let's review for just a second. On your rudder, jab a little bit to control stability. On a twin, try to get the, actually on any tail dragger, try to get your tail in the air so it's seeing as much air as possible. And practice. Okay? And there's going to be times that you drag the wingtips. I still have done it in crosswinds, even with all the hundreds and hundreds of flights I've had. And it's embarrassing. Your plane's disgusted with you. The plane's like, what are you doing to me? But tail draggers are not that hard, people. Anything in life is hard until you practice and you dominate it. And if you are a tail dragger pilot, some people will just firewall it and jerk it into the air and fly because they got so much power. But if you're going to fly scale airplanes, you really want to take your time to learn how to keep it tracking straight, get the tail in the air, keep it going straight, lift it off. Same thing with landing. Either do a wheel landing, hold your tail up in the air, steer with the rudder, or do a full stall landing where your rudder and your wheel has got some traction on the ground. Okay, so I hope you like my videos. If you do like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. And that's it, everybody. So don't be scared of tail draggers, everybody. Anything we don't know, we're scared of. So dive into it and have fun. Rock on, everybody, and have an awesome day.